Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to some more Pokemon action. I'm your host Ryan, and today we're going to continue the learning competitive series and focus on breeding. Now, this video is going to be split into two. This video is going to cover pretty much everything there is to breeding up until a certain point, and then the video that comes out after this will be covering breeding for individual values, and that's a long, tedious process, so that's why I want to split it up. But like I said, today I want to discuss breeding. Now, breeding won't give you competitive knowledge, but it's important to breed because without it, you'll be at a disadvantage. Now, there's a lot of components that go into breeding, and I think the best way to just show you what there is to show you first the order and how you approach breeding. So when you want to breed a Pokemon, there's a specific order that you should approach it in. To start off, you want to get egg moves, and at the same time as getting egg moves towards the end, you want to work for ability. And then once you get the ability, you want to work towards nature, and then once you get the nature, you want to work towards IVs. Now, I'll go into every single step in this video and the next so you guys understand exactly, but just keep that in mind that that's the order that you want to do this in. Now, before we get into all of that, there's a few little preliminary things that you need to know. So in order to actually breed, you need two Pokemon, a male and a female, or a Ditto. You put them in the daycare, and after a little bit, an egg will come out. Now, to hatch the egg, it takes a certain amount of in-game steps. You can find that information on the Cerebi Pokedex pages, but also know that if you have a Pokemon in your party with the ability Flame Body, it'll have those steps as well. In addition to that, something that helps with that process of breeding is that usually by the daycare there is a long stretch of road where you can press a button in a certain direction and you'll just go around in circles for a long time, and that's usually a good place to breed. Now, while every Pokemon can breed, there is a bit of a catch. Each Pokemon is in an egg group or multiple egg groups and can only breed with Pokemon from within that egg group or with Ditto. There are quite a few egg groups, and some Pokemon can be found in multiple groups. The Ditto egg group is the most unique, and although it contains only Ditto, any Pokemon that can breed with Ditto. In addition to that, any Pokemon found in the undiscovered egg group cannot breed, regardless of who its partner is in the daycare. As for the rest of the groups, you can click the link down in the description below to find out which Pokemon is in which egg group. Now, you may ask yourself, Ryan, why bother teaching us egg groups if everything can just breed with Ditto? Well, firstly, I highly suggest you find yourself a Ditto. Ditto is one of the easiest Pokemon to breed with for the latter stages of breeding. However, the first step, if you remember, is breeding for egg moves, and unfortunately, Ditto does not have the ability to breed for egg moves. It just doesn't have an egg move to give. So, for the first step, if you are going for egg moves, you can't use a Ditto, and this is where egg groups come into play. So, let's use Gengar as our example throughout these next two videos. We're going to be breeding a Gengar. So, here are Gengar's egg moves as listed on Cerebi. When you want an egg move on a Pokemon, you need a female of that Pokemon. See, if you're breeding a Pokemon, there's two ways to approach it. You can use a male and a female, and if you go for a male and a female combination, the female has to be the Pokemon that you're looking to hatch. However, if you use a Ditto, you can use either or, and no matter what, the egg will come out as the non-Ditto. So, that said, if you want an egg move, you have to have the female of the Pokemon you want, which is Gengar in this case, and a male Pokemon that has the move that you want bred on. So, for example, let's get our Gengar the move Astonish. All you have to do to easily get this information is check that right column that says details, and it'll explain which Pokemon carry that move that Gengar can breed with. You can also look it up on your own via the egg groups, but this is probably the easiest way to figure it out. As you can see, there are quite a few Pokemon that can give Gengar the move Astonish, and it's broken down how they themselves can get the move Astonish. There are always going to be three options listed out to get these moves: level up in X and Y, level up in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, or an egg move of their own. So, for example, both of the level up sections for Astonish are the same, so it doesn't matter where you go, either X and Y or Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, as long as you level up the Pokemon to the appropriate level, they're male, and you breed it with a Gengar. However, sometimes you'll hit a bit of a roadblock. Not every move can be learned via level up, and you're gonna have to do what we call a breeding chain. So let's take a look at a different move that isn't Astonish, as it does have level up options. What if we wanted to get the attack Reflect type on our Gengar? As you can tell, not a single Pokemon learns Reflect type via level up in both X and Y and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. What this means is that you need to choose another Pokemon that obtains it via breeding and start what we call a breeding chain. As you can see on the image on the screen, the Gengar line, Castform, and Stunfisk all learn Reflect type via breeding. So let's breed our Gengar with a Stunfisk. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the Stunfisk and find out how Stunfisk learns Reflect type. Unfortunately, Stunfisk also has Reflect type as an egg move, so we need to find another breeding partner for Stunfisk. If we look at the same section that we did as Gengar, we notice that Stunfisk can breed with the Amistar line, who also gets Reflect type. So we click on the Amistar line, and unfortunately, Amistar doesn't learn it via level up either. So what we have to do is find someone that can breed with Amistar to get that Reflect type. Thankfully, the chain ends here as Amistar can breed with Tentacruel, who gets Reflect type via level up. So our breeding chain ends up becoming as follows. Level a Tentacruel to get Reflect type and breed it with a female Amistar. The Ammonite that results from the egg will now have Reflect type. Now we need to get an Ammonite that is male and a female Stunfisk. Once those two breed, find yourself a male Stunfisk and it will have Reflect type. Finally, we take that male Stunfisk and breed it with a female Gengar. Now, whenever an egg comes out of that group, it will always have Reflect type, and now you have your egg move. So one move is pretty easy to get, Astonish, while another Reflect type takes a bunch of steps. Thankfully, since we're doing this first, you don't have to worry about anything else. Once you get the proper egg going, it should only take 1 or 2 eggs to get the proper gender. From there, you just breed out a couple of eggs more, and you're already on to the ending of your egg moves. If you want to have multiple egg moves on your Pokemon, you'll have to do this multiple times. However, egg moves will always pass down into the egg as long as it's on one of the parent Pokemons, so there's no need to worry about having to repeat the chain over and over again if you're looking for multiple attacks. There's a bit of a catch though, since every Pokemon can only have 4 attacks learned, this means that you're limited to 4 egg moves. So as I mentioned before, there is a breeding order that you want to adhere to. You want to start off with egg moves because that's the quickest and it makes the most sense. However, towards the end of egg moves, you might want to work towards ability, and I'll explain why in a little bit. Once you finish the ability, you go on to natures, and then you go on to IVs. So let's talk about abilities. As I covered in the first video, Pokemon have somewhere between 1 and 3 abilities. One of these potential abilities can be something called a hidden ability. If the parent Pokemon does not have the hidden ability, it cannot be passed down. Much like egg moves, a hidden ability can only be passed down via a female parent or a parent paired with Ditto. Well, how do you get these hidden abilities? There are a few ways, and in fact there's so many specific ways, it's best if you just follow the link labeled down in the description below. That will teach you every single way to get every single hidden ability. So what about breeding the abilities? Well, no matter what ability the parent Pokemon has, it's still a chance. As mentioned, if you want the hidden ability, the parent must have that ability. However, the resulting egg still only has a 60% chance to have said ability, and then another 20% chance for the other abilities, if it has 2 choices, or 40% if it has 1 choice. On the contrary, if you don't want the hidden ability, or don't have it, the parent Pokemon, basically not Ditto, has an 80% chance to pass on its own ability, and a 20% chance to pass on its other ability, if it has one. So let's look at Gengar again. Gengar only has 1 ability, Levitate, so no matter how you breed it, you'll always end up with Levitate as the egg's ability. Easy enough. No extra steps involved. Say you want to breed a Charizard though. Charizard has Blaze as its normal ability and Solar Power as its hidden ability. If you want to breed for Solar Power, you'll need a parent Charizard with the Solar Power ability, which will get you a 60% chance to obtain said ability. If you want Blaze, however, you can breed a Charizard with Solar Power and hope for the 40% chance to get Blaze, or you could just get a Charizard with Blaze and any egg it produces will always have the Blaze ability. But let's take it one step further. Say you're breeding a Shuckle. Shuckle can have the abilities Gluttony and Sturdy as its normal abilities, or Contrary as its hidden ability. Much like Charizard, if you want Contrary on your Shuckle, you'll need a parent Shuckle with the ability. If you want Gluttony or Sturdy, you have a few options. You can stick a Shuckle in with Contrary into the daycare for a 20% chance at either ability. If you wanted to test your luck, you can go for Sturdy as an example, and you can put in a Shuckle with Gluttony for a 20% chance at Sturdy. Finally, you can put a shuckle in with the ability you want, say sturdy, and you'll have an 80% chance to get the ability sturdy in the egg. So moving down the list, we come to natures. As explained in the last entry, there are quite a handful of natures. You see, when you're breeding from natures, each nature has the same chance of being bred out no matter what. So since there's quite a handful of natures, you can be breeding for quite a while. So I have a suggestion for you. One of the best things that you can do is go out to an area that has wild ditto. Find as many ditto as you can and try to get a ditto that has every single nature. So get a ditto with adamant, get a ditto with modest, get a ditto with timid, and so on. Because you see, at this point in the breeding process, you don't need to breed for anything that Ditto cannot provide. You already bred for egg moves, so there you go. You already bred for abilities, so there you go. And at this point, it really doesn't matter who the partner is, as long as you have a female of what you're trying to breed for. So there are two ways to get the proper nature. The first and longest way is to just drop 2 Pokemon into the daycare and hatch as many eggs as you can until you find the first of the nature. Or you can take what I suggested and find all the Dittos and slap on an Everstone. Now, Everstone is going to be your friend. When an Everstone is held during the breeding process, it guarantees that every single egg that is hatched will have the nature of the Pokemon that's holding the Everstone. And that's just perfect because that's a step that is made incredibly quickly. So let's take our Gengar, for example. So our Gengar has the ability Levitate, and our Gengar has the egg move Reflect type. Now we want to give our Gengar Timid. So for starters, we can just breed that Gengar over and over again, and eventually we'll find an egg with the Timid nature. Or I can just grab a Ditto that I have in my box that has the Timid nature, slap it into the daycare with Gengar, slap an Everstone on said Ditto, and the very first egg I hatch, you guessed it, will have Timid. So that's the best way to approach it. But don't fret, if you don't have a Ditto with the proper nature, or even a Pokemon in its egg group, you can just breed randomly and you will eventually come across the nature. So no worries, it'll just take a tiny bit more time. And that's it for this video. The next breeding video that will come out will cover individual values and how to get it. We'll continue using our Gengar example, but it's a long process that can be confusing and can get convoluted. So I want to make sure that this video doesn't go on too long so you guys can follow along with the most important part about breeding. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I hope to catch you guys at the next episode. Peace.